Walter, what do we got here?
This is catching the big fish.
Okay. That's a fish simulator. Oh, hook.
When I see the line down the water, that's right. This would be a sports person now. I'm going to say sportsman. So it's a sports person. So I'll tell you what to do.
There he is, he's coming in the bag. One netted fish. What have we got for a score, Walter?
$3.95.
Oh, $3.95. Score's been pretty good scores in around the 340.
Don't know nothing about it.
Oh, sure you know anything about it. It sure looks like it's good fun. The kids that have a ball, eh?
Absolutely nothing about it.
So that's the fish simulator. Television and reel. You stand back and there's the little box. Goes in there and it's up on the screen and you're waiting for him to grab. Amazing. Modern technology. Catch a fish and not even leave the living room. Great entertainment. Great fun. Hey, Herb.
Yes, Dennis. My name's Herb Stump. I'm a director with the BC Wildlife Federation. I've been a director for just over a year now. The BC Wildlife Federation is the oldest conservation group in the province of British Columbia. It was started back in 1956 and it's still on the go and very active today. We deal with all kinds of issues. We deal with fishing issues, hunting issues, the firearms, the shooting sports issues. We deal with forestry and just anything and everything else that deals with the environment in British Columbia, either provincially, municipally, or on the federal level. The BC Wildlife Federation has 35,000 members. It's a great organization, and it's out there and it works for you. If you're a fisherman, or if you're a hunter, or if you're a recreational backcountry user, the BC Wildlife Federation covers your needs and your wants and goes out and lobbies for your rights to have access to your recreation and your sport. How's that, Dennis?
That's pretty good. I hear you got a high-profile member belonging to the club also.
Yeah, we sure do. Bill Whitney, if he's the guy you're referring to, he's pretty high profile. Bill's a really proactive type of fella, really politically motivated and involved, and really knows his stuff inside and out and backwards and forwards. He's been my reference point for the last 18 years. I've worked with Bill, and I sure enjoy his company. I've learned a lot from Bill, and I'm always hoping to learn more.
So is there any phone numbers or anything you'd contact if you had any questions? Or?
There sure is. Yeah, you can get hold of the Fed office at 1-800-533-2293, and that brings you right to the Fed office. And from there, you can either talk to a live person or follow the prompts on the phone to take you to whatever department that you need to go inside.
Great, thanks a lot. Very informative.
Thanks, Dennis.
We have 2 fly casting tools set up. Nice big area. As you can see, it's quite a good-sized building. We have 2 floors exactly the same in length and width. Down here we have our casting areas for our competitions. See if you can get them in the middle of the tubes. And we'll be going at that pretty good later. different competition, lots of prizes for the kids, adults, and seniors.
2nd annual now.
This thing. Morning, Greg. What do we got here?
This is our casting school for kids. We're teaching kids that don't know how to cast with bait casters, center pins, spinning rods. We have some targets set out there. We got an intermediate, beginner, and a pro cast competition. And basically just introduce kids how to cast and to get them to cast at targets so they got some control with their rods and reels.
So when they're first starting out, what would you start them out on, Greg?
We'd recommend for a guy, a little kid that hasn't fished before, to start off with a spinning rod and our spinning reel setup, which is easy, no tangles. They're basically very simple to use. And intermediate, we could get the kids into using bait casters, a little bit more hand-eye coordination it takes, acceptable to backlashes, and that also gives them respect for what fishing's all about when they start untangling their own bird's nests.
So what would you say about when they first start out for quality-wise?
Quality-wise, you can get started up for about $50, $60, and I'll give you a good Shimano spinning rod and reel setup, around a 6-foot, 7-foot rod range, which will be good for your trout, your carp fishing in the sloughs, which is phenomenal, and it will also handle your smaller sockeye.
Okay, well, thanks, Greg, and good luck at your school there.
Thank you.
And there we have our rods and reels set up here. There's your spinning one that he was just talking about for starting out. And then we go over to the bait casters. And then last but least, the center pin. What do you think, Greg? Is that the most difficult to use, center pin, or?
Basically, that's your hardest reel you're ever going to be able to cast. It's more for the real strong fishermen. Your rivers on the Fraser for bait fishing, the vetter especially for steelhead fishing. It's basically the most acceptable to backlash, and it's a lot of work. They're a 1-to-1 ratio compared to your bait casters, which now are getting up to 6-to-1.
And what would the cost of one of those basic outfits be?
Basically, to get into these, you're looking at top dollar. For a good one, you're anywhere from $300 to $500 for a decent center pin. Pick up used ones for around $100, $125.
Okay, so definitely not for your beginner then.
Not for your beginner.
Right.
This is your novice,
yeah,
your real serious fisherman.
Okay, or if you want to get into it long term then.
Or long term, yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Well, we got a couple intermediate doing a little bit of practice and casting now. Got a good setup there. In a few hours there they put through, they said about 150, 200 kids. They were all practicing, so quite an interest in the young ones upcoming. And this one here was for the beginners. This bay here was for the intermediate, and then the far over there we've got the pro setup. And as you can see, a larger tube, bigger hole, smaller hole, and even farther is a can.
Hi.
Morning, Alan.
Good morning. Thanks for coming out. This is the Fisheries and Oceans Canada display booth. And we've got some great handouts here and information for all ages. We've got fish identification cards. We've got some great keychains here and some really good information.
So I can basically come here and pick up information on just about anything then, eh?
Come on down. We've got recreational information, habitat information, oceans, the whole realm.
So you've just got a good ride of everything. And what's down there hiding in the jars?
Down here we have a little bit of a display, and this is to talk about the clarity of the water and that the salmon need clear water, and just showing you how much, with this little amount of gravel, what it can do and how the fish can't end up seeing and what has to get through their gills and what it can do to their spawning grounds.
Oh, okay, so it's important to keep our rivers clean then.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Right, well, the water.
Coast Guard Auxiliary Boating Safety Program. Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. What do we got set up at this booth?
This is Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary Unit 3 from the Valley.
Okay.
And we have here today just samples of materials that you should have on your vessel.
Right, okay.
Pamphlets on hypothermia and boating safety guides. And just general information of what to do and what not to do out on the water.
Okay. So I can come here and actually see what I need for my boat then if I've never fished before then, eh?
That's correct.
Basically, so, right, and you sort of have pamphlets of what you should have in your boat and what you shouldn't have, and
That's correct.
some of the safety tips too, I guess, eh?
Betcha.
Okay.
It's all in a little booklet, the safe boating guide that we have out to people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
We'll just call this a revision.
Okay.
Okay?
We have for the children some safety feature books. They're fun books.
Okay.
There's all kinds of things to do in here. It teaches them about safety on the water. And it's good education for the parents as well.
Perfect. Right.
Okay, this is the safe boating guide.
Uh-huh.
That tells you everything that you require on your vessels.
Oh, excellent. So there's some pretty good reading here for adults and kids.
Correct.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Running?
Morning, Fred.
Good morning. I'm Fred Walker of the Canadian Power Sales Squadron. We're located here in the Valley. We're a volunteer organization that gives safe boating courses to the public. Here in Valley, we give courses at Sardis Senior Secondary and Abbey Senior Secondary in Abbotsford. We give a 14-week course which covers everything from nautical charts, bearings, use of navigational aids, weather, boat safety, and equipment. Other than that, we also right now are giving the Boat Pro exam for those who want to challenge the exam to get their certificate of proficiency. That's about it.
Can you tell me just briefly what I got to have that license for?
Okay, you have to have that license for any boat that has a motor on it. Now that could be electric motor or a gas motor, and it doesn't depend on the size. By a certain time, they have it listed as to what dates you have to have your certificate of proficiency. Right now, by 2002, any boat under 13 feet, the operator, if it's gas-powered, must have a certificate of proficiency or the Boat Pro license, which they're talking about right here. Canadian Power Sales Squadron, we also give the Boat Pro, and there is some other private organizations that give the exams as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I see you're writing the exam, eh?
Yeah.
That's our concession stand inside there. Hot dogs, hamburgers, you name it, and they've got her. Quite a good little setup inside here, and we got our tables all set up here for the food, and we can also at the back, and we've tied the two in together so that they can write their boating exam and use the table and have a coffee or have something while they're writing. We have a few boats here on display. So that when they come in, they have a lot of different types of fishing boats that you can actually use for fishing whatever your needs, whether it's a small lake or out in a salt chuck. It's all right here. Morning, George.
Hey Dennis, how are you today?
Good. What do we got here?
Okay, in the display here, the smaller ones are coho and the larger ones are steelhead smokes. These will be released in April, May and June from the coho will be released from the hatchery, and the steelhead will be transported downstream, released in the bottom part of the river, to give the anglers in 3 or 4 years' time a better chance of catching them down below. So it's a good display they have here. Everything seems to be working out. And, it's nice to be involved with this kind of community activity.
Right, and where do you get most of your eggs from?
Well, we take them all from the brood stock that the anglers up and down the river catch for us.
Okay, that's where they tube the fish?
That's where they tube the fish.
Okay.
And we get maybe half of them from the lower end of the river and half from the upper end.
Okay.
We take 40 pairs, and that gives us enough to release between 120,000 and 140,000 smolts.
Right, and they're caught at different time periods, I take it.
Yeah, we're trying to diversify the timing of taking the brood stock, so the fish will come back over an extended period of time between December and April, just to spread out the run somewhat.
And how old are they before they get the adipose clipped?
Oh, the adipose clip is done. It's getting earlier now. We're doing them right out of the troughs. So we take the eggs, come out the incubation room as elvins and fry. We put them in the calf troughs there. And I think they stay in there for about 2 or 3 months. Then they're clipped and put in the channels and reared for another year after that. So they're probably about 4 months.
Okay.
Kind of small.
Right. So that separates the difference between the wild and the hatchery.
Yep.
And we all know that you keep the hatchery, you can.
You release the wild.
Can't keep the wild.
You can't keep, and you have to release them very carefully. When you see it's got an adipose fin, it has to be handled properly. And there's a couple of displays here about at this exhibition today about how to handle wild fish.
Yes. Okay. So this is pretty important that we look after our hatchery fish, because without them, I take it, then we're not fishing, right?
There wouldn't be any fishing going on at all.
Not in the Vetter for the steelhead.
No.
Right.
And we all know help through the catching of broodstock by the local anglers.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Mike and Kevin.
Morning. How are you?
Good. What have we got?